everyone. Thank you for joining us for OCL Sound Waves, Sure to Read, where Ocean County Library employees talk about what they're reading and give you some great ideas about what you might want to consider for your bookshelf at home. My name is Sherry, and I am a librarian with OCL's Public Relations Department. Today I'm super excited to introduce you to Gail. Gail has been with OCL for 10 years and works in our circulation department. She enjoys running, knitting, macrame, caring for her plants like succulents and herbs, and she loves reading. She also enjoys spending time with family and friends. She's an avid reader, and we share the same reading interests, so I'm really looking forward to see what she has to say. The two books we will be discussing are The Midnight Library by Matt Haig and The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. Oddly enough, when I approached Gail about doing this podcast and then asked her which two books she'd like to discuss, she told me the two books and I had to laugh out loud. I actually just finished reading The Midnight Library. What a coincidence. So welcome, Gail. The Midnight Library is available in regular print, large print, and also ebook and audiobook on Overdrive, which is our digital ebook and audiobook service available with your library card. We also have an app called Libby, which is basically the app of Overdrive. The Nightingale is available in regular print, large print, book on CD, playaway, and also ebook and audiobook on Overdrive. Just in case you're not aware of what a playaway is, it's actually a small device that holds an entire book on it, much like an MP3 player. It is controlled by 8 buttons that allow the listener to turn the device on and off, control the speed of the narrator's voice, and also fast forward and reverse the audio. OCL offers many books on Playaway, and the only thing you need to get started is a set of headphones available at most library branches and a AAA battery, and of course, your library card. So thanks for joining me. Let's get started. If you want, we can discuss each book separately, and we can start with The Midnight Library. How does that sound?
That's fine.
Okay, let's do this. So The Midnight Library, what would you say as far as category or genre that the book fits into?
The category that it fits into is magical realism. So it's a little bit of reality with some magic thrown in.
Nice. Okay. And let's describe one of the main characters of the book.
Well, Nora is the main character. She's a 30-year-old British woman who lives alone with her cat. After a series of unfortunate events, she spirals and believes her only recourse is death. That's how the book begins.
Wow. I have to say, I just finished reading it, and it was definitely something that kind of drew me into the book. The character development was great.
Yes.
And it kind of takes you away from reality for a while when you read one of these magical realism books, like a fantasy type book. Makes you forget your own worries. Life isn't so bad. So after you read this book, did it change you? Did it change your views? In other words, do you think you're going to remember this book in a few months or even years, or is it something that you kind of find might be forgettable?
No, I don't think it'll be forgettable. I really like the book a lot, so I look forward to see what the author writes about next. But I liked it because I think most of us ponder what our lives could have been or might have been if we had made different choices. And reading it just made me appreciate the life that I do have and the choices I have made, just as you'll see in this book with Nora.
Yeah, I found the same thing. Like, it's amazing how small little decisions that you make in your life can also change the course of events.
Sure.
You know, and we can all sit here probably and say, oh, we should have, we could have, we would have. But you have to be appreciative of what it is that you do have in your life. And I think this book kind of helped me with that too. Yeah. In a weird kind of way. It wasn't meant to be a therapeutic book.
No.
But it definitely took me down that road of, yeah, are there things I would change in my past that maybe I have some regrets about or things like that? Of course, I think we all do. But all in all, I'm just thankful with what I do have. Would you say that you had a favorite or least favorite part of the book?
I love magical realism books. I think what it offers is like possibilities of things that could happen, and it stirs your imagination. I also believe that magical moments happen all the time, And if we're paying attention, we might encounter those.
For sure. With me, I know when I read a book, if I super, super love a book, I will read it in 2 days. Or maybe even a day if I have the time. Did you find yourself like racing to the end of the book, or did you casually read it, or did the book kind of drag on? It sounds like it didn't drag on.
Didn't drag on at all. And when I really like a book, I actually slow down as I get towards the end because I don't want it to end. I'm enjoying it so much that I race through it, and then I get to like maybe the last 3 or 4 chapters, and I'm like, oh no, it's almost over, this moment. So then I kind of take my time. I like to be alone and absorb the whole thing by myself, and it's a great experience.
I really think that I need to take that on more too, because I tend to like want to find out what happens, but then there have been books that I've read where I'm literally upset that the book is over.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, there's got to be more.
Yes.
Is there a sequel coming out? Like, it's actually upsetting me emotionally when I finish certain books. This one, I wasn't upset. It was just, I like for everything to kind of be finalized. Yeah, and it was a fun book to read. But there are those other books where you're like, oh no, that's it. That's the end of the book.
That's so true.
Do you think you'd likely read another book by Matt Haig?
I definitely would. I definitely would, yeah. At least to see if it's as good as this one was.
Yeah. He definitely drew me in and had my interest throughout the entire book.
Yeah, me too.
So if you could have a meeting with the author and ask him anything, what do you think it would be?
I guess I'd want to know what his ideas were for his next book.
Oh, okay.
Maybe a little synopsis to see if I would be drawn in as much as I was with this book.
Yeah, it would be so interesting to get into the minds of some of these authors with how they create these things. And like, for me, I would love to know, like, well, how long did it take you start to finish, idea to like finished book?
Yes.
Did it take for this to come about? It would be really interesting. Well, thank you. Yeah, that's definitely a good book. It's available at Ocean County Library in all the formats that we mentioned in the beginning. The second book that you want to discuss is one of my absolute favorite books of all time. It's called The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. So we'll probably just go over these same questions if that's okay with you. Sure. But of course, if there's anything additional that you want to add, feel free to do that. So again, what category or genre would you say that The Nightingale fits into?
This is historical fiction. The book tells the story of 2 sisters in France during World War II and their struggle to survive and resist the German occupation.
Oh, such a good book. I can't say enough good things about this book.
Yeah, me too.
Kristen Hanna is just such a skilled author in the way that she develops the story, makes you fall in love with or hate the characters, whatever they're meant to do.
Yes. Evoke an emotional response in you.
You feel like you're in the book.
Yeah.
You're a part of it, and it's happening in front of you.
Yeah.
Did the book change you or your views on that era, on that time period? Do you think you'll remember it for years again, or do you think it's forgettable? It's not forgettable.
No, this one's not forgettable. Any historical fiction that I read, it just humbles me and what people have gone through and what they survive and the tenacity they have and the courage they have to go on, and their freedoms are stripped from them, their choices are stripped from them. You and I don't have that. Maybe on a daily basis we have little things, but nothing like what people have gone through through wars and famines and dust storms and things like that. And it also helps me, especially when people come into the library, to know that we each carry a story with us, our story, and to take that into consideration when you're dealing with the public, because it helps you have more compassion.
I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. You just don't know what somebody's going through before they walk in the door. Right. Maybe they had the worst day of their life before they came to you, or maybe they had the best day of their life before they came to you.
Right.
And it's so good to be so aware of that when dealing with anyone in life.
Absolutely.
To be able to know that everybody comes from a different point of view, and unless we've all walked a day in each other's shoes, we don't know how that person may feel. So if you had to pick a favorite part of the book, what would you say that would be? It's hard.
I love the whole book.
Me too.
I love the whole book. It was so well written from beginning to end. So I didn't have a favorite part. I had some, like you said, characters that I didn't like. Most of the characters I loved. So,
I mean, this book was so good that I probably read it a couple years ago, and I remember there were moments in the book where I was sobbing.
Yes.
Like crying full out, where my kids would come in and be like, Mommy, what's the matter? And I'd say, this book is just, I get the chills when I talk about it. I mean, it just touches you in a way that it goes right into the deep part of your heart and soul. It really does.
Reaches
and
in
it,
there.
oh my gosh, literally sobbing, needed tissues. Like it was, now that I look back on it, I'm like, oh my God, I must have looked ridiculous. But it really was that good. The message in the book and the storyline, it really touched my heart.
Yeah, and I think when something's that well written, it affects you emotionally because you really do get drawn into it. In fact, I'm reading it for the second time. I read it in 2015, and I just picked it up, and I'm reading it again, and I'm loving it the second time, too.
Yeah, I hear, like I had mentioned to you before, that I think there's the works of hopefully making it into a movie. I just don't understand how they're going to fit it all into like a 2-hour time span, because as I was reading the book, with a really good book, I play out the movie in my head. I can actually visualize what's going on while I'm reading the book, and the description was so intense and well written. I was playing the whole book out like a movie in my head.
I mean, the characters.
But it didn't fit in 2 hours, that's for sure. But this is one of those books that I think I read it in like 2 or 3 days because I just could not put it down.
Yeah.
So what if you could meet with Chris and Hannah? What would you want to know about her, or what would you ask her about? What would you say?
I think I'd want to know if the book had as big an impact on her as it did on us. And maybe as the author, she's one step removed. But did she enjoy it as much as her readers did? Yeah, I'd like to know.
Me too. And you just brought something up that I would love to know too, is once it's all done, does she like reread it one final time? Like after all the work that must have been put into this book, and there's so many historical facts, even though it's historical fiction, it very well could have happened.
Yes.
And there are certain parts of it that are based on
Events.
factual things.
Yes.
Yeah. I would love to know, like, after all is said and done, almost like when someone produces a movie and then they finally go to the premiere and they watch the movie.
Yes.
I would love to know, did Chris and Hannah, after it was all said and done and the books were printed, get her copy and like reread it from start to finish? I'd love to know that. Or was she kind of like, all right, I'm done with this now, let's move on to the next project? Well, I really appreciate. Do you have anything else that you want to talk about with either of these books? Do you have any suggestions for other reading for people who like these type of books? Are there other titles that maybe you would suggest for them?
Well, Krista Hanna wrote a new book, The Four Winds, which is about the Dust Bowls in Texas and Oklahoma. That was very good. I just finished that.
That is on my nightstand. I'm going to be starting it tonight. Okay. I don't know if it's going to be one where I'm going to have to read it in 3 days and like tell everybody else, like, I'm not eating, I'm not sleeping, I'm just reading the book. But I feel like I've read a couple of her books, and there's never been one that I haven't liked.
Yeah.
Firefly Girls, I read that. I read The Great Alone. Did you read that?
No, I haven't read that one.
That was a good one.
Was it? Okay.
And each one's a little different.
Okay.
The Winter Garden, that was an amazing book. She's a great writer. Matt Haig, I've never read before this book.
No,
this is
I
the
haven't
first book
either.
of his that I've read. I enjoyed it. I would definitely read another one of his.
Yes.
Are there any other like magical realism fantasy books that you would suggest, or authors?
Well, the two that I mentioned to you earlier.
Right.
Before the Coffee Gets Cold.
Okay.
It's a short book, but it was very good. I really liked it. And then The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue.
Oh, nice.
So
okay.
those were both, I enjoyed those very much.
Very nice. Well, Gail, I can't thank you enough for taking the time out of your schedule to meet with me and talk about these books. For anybody listening, if you enjoyed this podcast, be sure to share it with all of your friends and family. We are also going to be publishing this podcast on our YouTube channel, which you can find at www.youtube.com/OCL video. We would love to know what our listeners think. So if you've already read either of these books or you read them in the future, let us know what you think in the comments section on the YouTube version. Thanks for joining us, and until next time, happy listening.